Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new video. Every night whenever I woke up, no matter what time it was, I would always see my widowed Bobby standing in the lounge. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but now it seemed like something was off because Bobby was mostly seen standing near my brother's room. What business did a widowed woman have with her brother-in-law at such odd hours? If she needed something, she could have spoken to my brother in daylight, in front of everyone. Widows are usually very cautious to maintain their dignity and avoid any gossip. But Bobby, where are you going at this hour? Hearing my voice, she suddenly panicked and quickly rushed toward me, saying, "Oh, keep your voice down." Her face looked troubled, as if she was sneaking away to hide from everyone. I started feeling suspicious. She hushed me and then said, "I'm not feeling well. I ate too much, and it's making me feel heavy. I was just going to the kitchen to get some medicine." I looked at her and then at the kitchen, which was on the other side of the house. The area where Bobby was standing only had the bedrooms of my brothers, and she was right in front of my middle brother's room. I stared at her in shock, trying to read the nervousness on her face. It was obvious. I didn't say anything and quietly walked towards my room. But instead of going inside, I hid behind a pillar to see what Bobby would do next. And just as I had suspected, Bobby quickly entered my brother's room. I was left stunned. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It had been happening for quite a while. In the beginning, I dismissed it as my imagination. But now my fears had turned into reality. I was deeply disturbed. What was Bobby involved in? I used to respect her so much, but now I felt disgusted by her. Along with that, I started feeling hatred towards my brother as well. I never imagined that my brother could stoop so low. I always thought he was a good, virtuous, and sensible man, but he turned out to be worse than I could have ever imagined. Someone who couldn't even spare his own brother's widow. But strangely, I never saw my brother step out of his room. It seemed like Bobby was the one pursuing him. I stood there for a long time, trying to convince myself that what I had just seen with my own eyes was either a misunderstanding or the truth. But as time passed and Bobby didn't come out, I had no choice but to go back to my room. Standing there for so long had made my legs ache. The next morning, when I woke up, the first thing I did was look at Bobby. She seemed extremely happy, almost like a newlywed bride. Her happiness felt unbearable to me, like poison. Then I noticed my brother. He also looked quite pleased. I cursed both of them in my heart and decided that I would tell my mother about this soon. But before that, I needed solid proof. I had to catch them red-handed. So I started following Bobby everywhere she went. I became so clingy that the entire household started noticing. One day, my mother called me over and said, "What is this drama you're doing? You're always stuck to your Bobby. Don't you have anything else to do? Even she is getting worried about what's wrong with you." Hearing this, I struggled to control myself and stop myself from saying anything. From that day onward, I stopped sticking to Bobby, but I still kept a close eye on her. Now I started feeling that Bobby might have suspected that I had found out about her actions, which is why she began to distance herself from me. Another thing I noticed was that for the past 2 days, she hadn't gone into my brother's room. A whole week passed, and still she didn't enter his room. This left me both surprised and curious. What exactly was going on between them that no one in the house knew about? That night, I kept thinking about it, struggling with my conscience. My inner voice kept scolding me, telling me that it wasn't right to doubt someone without proof. It was against morality to accuse someone without knowing the full truth. So I decided to step back. Maybe I was the one overthinking. Maybe there was nothing going on at all. Perhaps Bobby genuinely needed something from my brother that night. Or maybe my brother hadn't even been in his room at that time. After all, it was common for him to come home late or leave the house at night. It was a habit of his from the beginning. But even then, different questions kept arising in my mind. If my brother wasn't in his room, then why would Bobby go there in the first place? I decided to leave this matter alone for a while. One day I was sitting in my room, working on my college assignments, when my cousin suddenly rushed in. Her face looked extremely worried, and seeing her like that made me anxious too. I immediately asked, "What happened? Why are you in such a hurry?" She replied cautiously, "If you found out what I just discovered, your condition would be no different from mine." Her words sparked my curiosity, and I looked at her intently. After a brief pause, she revealed something that I had already suspected to some extent. She told me that in the evening she had seen Ahmed Pai putting flower garlands on Bobby's hands. For a few moments, I was completely silent. I didn't know how to respond. So I made her promise not to share this with anyone for now. She agreed, but after that, she wouldn't leave me alone. She kept pestering me to tell her the full story. But what could I tell her? Even I didn't know what was really going on. The atmosphere of the house felt strange. Or maybe it was just me who found it strange. Only Allah could help us in this situation. A few days later, I witnessed something with my own eyes that left me in shock. For a few moments, I couldn't even believe it. That day, no one was home. Our house is quite large. It has a big courtyard in the front and a lawn at the back. That day, only Bobby and I were home. I was starving, but I didn't know how to cook, nor did I know where Bobby had kept the food. I searched every corner of the kitchen but found nothing. So I started looking for Bobby. I checked the rooms, then the front area of the house, but she was nowhere to be found. Now I was beginning to worry. Where had she gone? To find her, I went towards the rooms at the back of the house, and in that moment I wished I had never come there. There was deep silence all around, but suddenly my eyes fell on a pair of shoes outside a room, my brother's and Bobby's shoes. That room had rugs and mats spread on the floor, so everyone usually left their shoes outside before entering. Seeing this, my heart started pounding. My first instinct was to run away, but then I decided that today I would uncover the truth no matter what. I walked forward and stopped in front of the room. My heart sank when I saw that the door was locked from the inside. I could hear strange sounds coming from within. As I stepped closer, my hand accidentally hit a nearby vase, and it shattered on the floor with a loud crash. Suddenly, there was complete silence. Even inside the room, all noises ceased. It felt as if my brother and Bobby had realized that I was there, which was why they had gone completely quiet. I took a few more steps forward and knocked on the door, but no one answered. A long time passed, and it felt as if the people inside had been struck speechless. Suddenly, my attention shifted to the only window in the room. It was on the right side with iron bars, so the inside of the room could be seen easily. I quickly moved toward it, my phone in hand. Today I had made up my mind. I would take their picture together and show the entire family what they had been up to. I rushed to the window, but they had already drawn the curtains. I pulled the curtain aside, but to my surprise, the room was empty. I was shocked and then looked around. There was no sign of anyone inside. I quickly checked the front of the room. No one was there either. The shoes that had been outside the room had disappeared, and the door was now open. I couldn't believe it. How had they seen me? How had they escaped so quickly? I was furious. My heart was raging. I wanted to destroy everything. As I stepped back into the house, I saw Bobby standing in the kitchen. She smiled at me and said, "Oh, I've been looking for you. Where have you been?" I gave her a sarcastic smile but didn't say a word. My mind was in such turmoil that I feared I might lose control and say something terrible, which would only backfire on me. Even if I was telling the truth, I would be the one labeled as a liar. I turned to leave from my room, but she grabbed my arm and said, "Don't you think everyone should mind their own business?" There was a strange gleam in her eyes, and I fully understood the meaning behind her words. So I calmly pulled my arm away from her grip and walked into my room. Now I was determined. I would record a video of both of them and show it to the entire family. Bobby had become too bold. Instead of feeling ashamed for being caught, she was acting like she was in control, telling me to mind my own business. She didn't even realize that as a widow, she was indulging in such a major sin. Now it was becoming clear to me, Bobby was still young. It would have been better if she had remarried. So the very next day, I took another step. Through a friend from university, I arranged for a small hidden camera, one that was barely noticeable. I discreetly placed the camera in my brother's room, making sure it was well hidden so he wouldn't find it. Then, satisfied with my work, I returned to my own room. I knew very well that what I was doing was morally wrong, but I had no other choice. This was the only way I could catch my brother and Bobby red-handed. Feeling somewhat relieved, I sat in my room and focused on my university work. When night fell, I went out to have dinner with the family, acting as if everything was normal. One thing I was keenly observing, though, was the way my brother and Bobby kept glancing at me. Their eyes remained fixed on me, but I deliberately ignored them. After a while, everyone went to their respective rooms. Tonight, I also went to my room early because the task I had planned to do required me to be there. I quickly activated the camera and then lay down to sleep, as my brother hadn't yet entered his room. I had no idea when he would return, and waiting around seemed pointless. So I chose to rest instead. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, the first thing I did was check the recorded footage. The video showed a clear view of the room. Suddenly, Bobby entered. My brother, who was sitting on the bed, smiled as he saw her. That smile on his face made my blood boil. Bobby walked closer and sat beside him. They started talking to each other, and then the screen suddenly went black. Seeing the black screen, I froze in confusion. When I checked the recording, I realized that I had only set the timer for 5 seconds. The recording had only captured those few moments. I felt like banging my head against the wall. I had worked so hard to get this opportunity, and now it was wasted. The worst part was that the camera was a one-time use device. I couldn't record anything else with it. In a panic, I immediately called my friend and asked if she could arrange another similar camera, but she flatly refused. Now, the only option left for me was to go to my brother and Bobby's room and see for myself. The fire of revenge was burning inside me. I had to make Bobby pay for what she had done. She was acting as if she was untouchable, as if I was beneath her notice. I had thought that she would beg me, that she would cry in front of me and plead for me to stay silent. But no, her attitude was the exact opposite. She was mocking me, taunting me, and even threatening me. And that I simply couldn't tolerate. The next day, I once again hid behind the room near my brother's bedroom. I had a feeling that Bobby had seen me because instead of going into my brother's room, she came straight to me. "What are you doing here at this hour?" she asked with a mysterious smile. Seeing her there, I panicked for a moment, but quickly composed myself and replied, "This is my house. I can stand wherever I want. You have no right to question me. Just go and do whatever you were about to do." Hearing my words, her face turned red with anger, but she said nothing. She simply walked away and entered her room. What I didn't realize at that moment was that she had tricked me. That night, she never went to my brother's room because my brother was already in her room from the beginning. I couldn't understand why the rest of the family remained oblivious to everything. How could they not notice what was happening? It felt like I was the only one in this house who saw the truth. A deep sadness engulfed me. My heart ached as I thought about my late brother who had loved Bobby more than anything. He had fulfilled all her wishes before she even had to ask, and now she was not only betraying his memory, but also causing pain to his soul. The next day I made up my mind. I would go and tell my mother everything. I was sure she would believe me. When I entered the room, my mother was already there, talking to Bobby about something. As soon as they saw me, they both fell silent. I walked over and sat next to them. Bobby immediately stood up and left. Now only my mother and I remained in the room. I looked at her and said, "Amy, I need to talk to you about something important." She nodded. "Go ahead, don't hesitate. Say whatever's on your mind." I took a deep breath and said, "Amy, I think something is going on between Pi and Bobby." Hearing this, my mother gave me a blank look, as if she hadn't heard my words. And that was exactly the case. She hadn't heard me. Before I could repeat myself, my cousin entered the room, interrupting the conversation. After that, my mother never gave me another chance to speak. Instead, she sent me back to my room. For some reason, I had a feeling that my mother had actually heard me, but was deliberately avoiding the topic. Maybe she already knew something. Maybe she had her suspicions, but she chose to remain silent. She didn't want this issue to become public. But this wasn't right. How long could this go on? My patience was wearing thin. Meanwhile, my brother and Bobby's secret meetings continued to increase. And then one day they crossed all limits. That day, only my mother and I were at home. The rest of the family was either at university or college, while my father and uncle were at work. My mother, being unwell, took her medicine and went to lie down early. I was the only one awake. I was sitting in my room making notes when suddenly I felt extremely thirsty. I reached for the water jug, but there was no water left in the room. I had no choice but to step out. As I walked toward the kitchen, my eyes fell on the sofa in front of it. There my brother and Bobby were sitting together. Bobby had her head resting on his shoulder. They were sitting too closely, too intimately. They were completely unaware that there was someone else in the house. Seeing them like that, I quickly took out my phone and recorded a video. As I watched the recording, a victorious smile spread across my face. Now I was sure. I had won. Now I would teach them a lesson they would never forget. I was so happy that I roamed around the house, eagerly waiting for all the family members to gather. But that day, not everyone returned home, so I decided to postpone my plan until tomorrow. Tomorrow, I would expose them in front of everyone. At night, I was sitting in my mother's room when my eyes suddenly fell on a bunch of keys lying on the table. Curiously, I asked my mother, "Whose keys are these, Wise?" She replied, "These are the keys to all the rooms in the house." Hearing this, my eyes lit up with excitement. This was my golden opportunity to catch them red-handed. Without wasting a second, I grabbed the keys and rushed out of the room. My mother called after me, but I ignored her voice. I went straight to my brother's room and started looking for the right key. But to my disappointment, he wasn't in his room. That meant he was in Bobby's room instead. I hurried to Bobby's room and began trying different keys until finally the door unlocked. As soon as the door opened, I heard strange, unsettling sounds from inside. My heart pounded in my chest, but I quickly turned on my phone's camera and started recording. I pushed the door slightly further open, and the scene before my eyes made me feel like the sky had come crashing down on me. My brother and Bobby were in an extremely inappropriate state. I recorded a few more seconds and then rushed out of the room, my hands trembling. I didn't even dare to watch the video again. My heart was racing, and tears welled up in my eyes. I still couldn't believe that my brother could do something like this. But I had made up my mind. He and Bobby had to pay for their sins. The next day, when everyone was gathered at the dining table, I stood up and announced, "I have something important to tell you all." As soon as I spoke, Bobby's face turned pale. Maybe she had an idea of what was coming. My brother also looked at me seriously, his gaze sharp and unreadable. Strangely, I felt embarrassed showing the video in front of everyone, so I first decided to show it to my mother. I played the video where Bobby was resting her head on my brother's shoulder. Then, just as I was about to show the second, more incriminating video, my mother stopped me. She looked at me with disbelief and said, "Aren't you ashamed of doubting your own brother?" I was stunned, but this isn't just suspicion on me. Last night I saw them in the room. Before I could finish my sentence, my mother slapped me hard across the face. And in that moment, a shocking truth was revealed to me. My brother had secretly married Bobby some time ago. The only person who knew about it was my mother. No one else in the family had been told because they were against this relationship. That's why my mother had kept it hidden from me as well. She wasn't sure how I would react. A deep sense of regret washed over me. If only I had talked to my brother or Bobby about it first. If only I had asked my mother in detail instead of jumping to conclusions. I wouldn't have had to face this humiliation. I was ashamed of myself, but at the same time, I felt that my mother shouldn't have kept this a secret. If she had told us earlier, all of this could have been avoided. With a heavy heart, I apologized to my brother and Bobby. For the rest of the family, this was shocking news, but in the end, they accepted the marriage. From that day on, my brother and Bobby started living happily together. But even today, I regret what I did. I have learned a valuable lesson, that not everything is as it seems. Sometimes things appear one way, but the truth is completely different. From now on, I will never interfere in matters without knowing the full truth.